Hello, this is now my third video for Discovery Songwriting. And I just wanted to put out just a little brief clarification and understanding about what I'm trying to accomplish with this channel and what I'm offering. I'm a long-term music lover and follower, and I've learned some lessons about musicality, and I've had a few experiences of creativity that have been very inspirational, both as a creator and recognizing the responses that I've witnessed in a handful of other people, whether they were family, strangers, or other students, like in high school. And there's other channels on YouTube, obviously, where you would have stronger information informed in terms of technical music terms and knowledge. I salute those, and I aim to point people in the direction of different resources as I can. I've looked into a lot of different resources for music in terms of books and platforms, and I wish to put forward a couple non-solicited advertisements as far as pointing people in the direction of resources I've discovered that I'm not affiliated with. And also I want to do a few book reviews of quality books that I'm currently working through that have very strong information for music. And I want to highlight and share some of my discoveries with these resources as far as I can without plagiarizing or uh, uh, replicating copyrighted material. But so more than anything, I just want to share experiences and inspiration and things that I'm learning in music as I go to make my process of becoming a musician open and inspirational, and to get people, anyone, to share with anyone who views this into that place and mind frame where you're able to be very hot and come up with ideas that are inspirational and moving for both yourself and others. One of them is that I want to start with just a couple lucid reflections that I've had and that I had recently as it pertains to music and musicality. I did a little research into what a lot of our music derives from, contemporary music. As far as I understand, a lot of our music, contemporary music, both hip hop and different rock, and almost all genres that are influenced by hip hop, going further back, they derive from R&B, and going into gospel music before that. There's I can't elaborate upon it, but I know that there are relationships between rhythm and blues and gospel music. But then doing research beyond that, I understand that there's a book. I'm gonna come back to it in the the video description and reference the name of the book. But it has to do with slavery and music, and it talks about how originally what we know of as gospel music, which is so inspirational and influential, actually can be brought further back into simple folk music, both the folk music of Africa that was brought to America, but also folk music that was expressed by different slaves and indentured servants who were expressing and sharing their inspiration, and it didn't necessarily have to be religious or even righteous. It could have just been whatever they were experiencing and going through. And so sometimes I see people and they make statements about, like the state of hip hop, and how hip hop, some of what is reflected in hip hop is violent, and that's true, and I'm really pained by a lot of the atrocities that are coming out surrounding hip hop, both for artists and people that are touched by the music. But I want to say that we also do a certain disservice when we discredit hip hop artists as being violent, simply because what they're expressing is their lived experience, and I think that the music boils down to what is our lived experience, first and foremost, before any moral considerations. But also with that, more than that, I believe that, and this is just a personal reflection that I've had, and I've shared it with intellectual one time, and I believe that I once heard Judge Joe Brown talk about how there's a certain thing that people do. You'll see people of different communities and walks of life when they're just getting together and bantering and talking, and what they're really doing on a what's the word I'm looking for? What they're doing on a the evolutionary standpoint is they're sharing game trails. So they're talking about like where the flocks are headed, where the dangers are, where the opportunities are. And I think that we as human beings, we share our experiences instinctually as a reciprocity in both elucidating and sharing common dangers and opportunities, ultimately in good faith, I believe. I think that's a lot of what the historical church and experiences of real church have are, and also even the platform of YouTube. I think that it's closely related to that human instinct to share opportunities and dangers, talking about the game trails. So I'm just creating this video and this channel of Discovery Songwriting in that spirit of sharing advantages and danger, not necessarily dangers, but just advantages and opportunities, and discussing what some of the game trails are. And I think that that's what true music, hip hop, but even going deeper than that, folk music and human creativity. I think it's really about sharing experiences, both for joy, but also as important learning things, information, because some of the way we're able to cope with our life and also navigate our life based on influences and inspiration that we gain in art and media and music are really deeper, and it's a very human thing about sharing. And then the last thing I wanted to point out on this video is that another insight that I had is that I read somewhere that a human being is unique in that human beings, we're really among all of the living mobile organisms, we're really properly to be understood as thinkers first and foremost. We're thinkers to such an extent that it leaves us vulnerable in nature. But it's a disadvantage in that we take longer to develop because of our propensity to think consciously. But then we also have certain strengths and advantages that come from that allow us to live longer and healthier and have a healthier lifespan. So it's almost like we're in a certain maybe pretentious way, like custodians of the earth. But with that, I read somewhere, and I cannot quote the source, but someone was writing about the fact that a human life is not predetermined at birth like a lot of other creatures, where some creatures are, they're a tiger from birth, and that's the general lifestyle and course that the organism will have, and most of its predecessors and siblings will have a similar life course and lifestyle. But as human beings, we're really an open canvas at birth, and our life as human beings can take any course. Like two people can be born in the same family, and one of them will be an outstanding professional, and some might even be talented in things that are antisocial. But the unique thing about humans is that our life can replicate and almost reflect almost any animal in nature. Like you can see human beings that really, whether intentionally or unintentionally, replicate the lifestyle and life mode of different creatures in nature, but also different organisms in nature. Where I think that if you look at like a flower is a really beautiful but also kind of a serious thing, where there are certain things in nature that are meant to express a fragrance like a flower, but they're also jealously guarded by nature. Like if you go plucking flowers, you can prick your finger, and you can even be stung by a bee to the penalty of death if you have an allergic reaction. And that's just how serious it can be. That's how serious nature respects something like a flower. And a flower is not a flower is beautiful in that obviously it fertilizes, and it plays a role in fertilizing and germinating other plants, but it also exists almost purely for fragrance. And I think that some human beings, and I kind of resonate with this, and I think maybe other artists are similar to a flower in that your life is very serious and poignant, but it almost amounts to a fragrance more than a utility. Where you have some people that are very effective in leading upstanding lifestyles that contribute to a community, but some people, and I'm not saying that those people can't be artists and are not artists, but there are some people whose life art is almost kind of like futile in a lot of respects. However, it amounts to a fragrance that's very beautiful and meaningful, and can add inspiration and life to other people. And I just wanted to point out that us humans can sometimes reflect other creatures and organisms, and there's beauty and value in recognizing that. So I wanted to put that out. So, but basically beyond that, those are just some of my first reflections that I plan to share. And with this channel, I'm trying to put out inspiration to lead towards the objective of creativity as it's expressed in songwriting, but with what limited knowledge and resources I have. This is just a random video that lightly touches upon songwriting, and I hope someone can find this channel inspirational. And it's not targeted at any demographic. I'm trying to keep this as open and inspirational as I can, because I once heard someone say that if you can explain something so as it can be understood by a simple child, you really have an understanding of what you're talking about. So I want to make all that I express open, that anyone can understand it and take value from it. Therefore, it may contain something of value. But peace and solidarity to everyone that believes in and expresses love.